The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's November the 10th, 2025. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com. Joined once again this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, and Stephen Wagner as we discuss the news of the day, presented today by Modello. If it's college football season, if you're a college football fan, then you deserve a Modello. And we'll talk a little bit more about Modello later in the show. But first, guys, I want to start with the goings-on at Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday. An interesting game, to say the least. You know, Miami didn't really get its act going until late in the second quarter. But once it did, it put a 31-3 run together on Syracuse, and pretty much obviously took care of business at that point in time. And so, Matt, let me start with you. I don't think either one of us liked what we saw the first quarter and a half. It was more of the same conservative offense, station-to-station offense. There was one big play opportunity on the first drive. The ball got batted at the line of scrimmage, so Carson Beck was not able to get the ball to Malachi Toney. But I didn't think Miami challenged the Syracuse defense the way I really was hoping that they would do coming off the loss at SMU. But then in the second quarter, about the 5-minute and 21-second mark, Shannon Dawson flicked the switch, okay? And he totally changed the style of offense that he was calling. I mean, they started going down the field a little bit more. Not a lot, as we'll talk about, but at least there was an attempt to make some big plays and get the ball in the hands of the playmakers. And they came through. And some new guys emerged, like, you know, Dalen Upshaw with a big play, for example. Gerard Pringle enters the game and looks very, very good. So I felt like Miami, because of that, got a lot out of the game if they allow themselves to do so. It was very obvious that is the style of offense that is best for this team in terms of scoring a lot of points. They've lost 2 games because they only scored around 20, 21 points, which isn't going to cut it in college football today. You really got to be able to get into the 30s on a consistent basis to win. And Miami hasn't been doing that because they kind of got pigeonholed, in my opinion, into a little bit too conservative of an offensive attack. So, Matt, all of that said, your thoughts as you left Hard Rock Stadium on Saturday evening?
Yeah, I mean, look, the biggest highlight by far, the cookies in the media room didn't run out until like the end of the first quarter, which usually they're gone by the start of the first quarter. So, I mean, that's, I guess, a sign that nobody really wanted to go to the game. And the stands were in the media section, but neither of you seem to be laughing. I guess that's not funny. So
soaking it in. I personally didn't ever saw the cookies in the media room. So.
Oh yeah, they were there. So anyway, this is the thing, right? Well, first of all, Miami has a kind of consistency that nobody wants, which is every game they're inconsistent. That's their consistency right now, and that has to change. But we were talking about it, a couple of us who weren't totally shocked into silence by the midway point of the second quarter, and what we were saying was, how's Miami going to explain this? Because, and Stephen Wagner kept on, every time that a minute would go by, he'd say, the over-under's 11, the over-under's 8, the over-under's 3, and I initially predicted a 28-0 Miami win before the game in the media room, and then I changed it to 3-0 midway through the second quarter. So, but in all seriousness, what we were saying, or at least a couple of us were saying midway through the second quarter, is how does Miami explain this in the sense that the prior game, Shannon Dawson's entire explanation was the offense was great, we just shot ourselves in the foot, right? We had penalties, and there were no penalties for the first, 25 minutes of the game. There were no offensive penalties holding them back, no holdings, no false starts. That was Miami's offense at its best, and it scored 0 points against one of the worst teams in the country on offense, and not a good team on defense either. Just a bad team ever since their starting quarterback got hurt. They can't play with anybody. They've lost every game by a lot, which is why Miami was favored by 28.5 points. It was just shocking. And, not that I would wish for Miami to have won 3-0, but I really wanted to hear the coaches have to explain how there were no penalties this time and the offense still didn't work. Because at some point, I honestly, looking back now, I think the worst thing that ever happened to Miami was beating Notre Dame in Florida early in the year, because they became entrenched in what we're doing, nobody can stop. Because Notre Dame was supposed to have a great defense and Florida was supposed to have a great defense. And Miami did the same thing against both teams and did enough to win, right? And so Miami entered its 2 bye weekends without changing anything. 2 bye weeks where really have the chance to change a lot of stuff without changing anything. And Shannon Dawson flat out told us, nobody can stop us. We don't need to change anything. He literally told us that. And that's what he's showing. But I think if Miami had lost to Notre Dame or had lost to Florida, I think they would have beaten Louisville or beaten SMU, because they would have recognized this isn't good enough. This isn't going to beat the top teams in the country. And Miami right now would be better off in the CFP rankings if they'd lost to Florida or Notre Dame even, right? I know everyone's like, oh, the Notre Dame one's so great. But you're better off right now having 1 loss in ACC play and taking your chances in the ACC title game, because I think Miami is the most talented team in the ACC. God forbid me for saying that. I think it's true, and I think most people would agree, right? 3 weeks ago, remember, or 4 weeks ago, the national media said this was the most complete team in the country. In the country. All the geniuses that have followed college football, played college football, coached college football, they're like, Miami is and Ohio State are the 2 most complete teams in the country. Like, that's what they were all saying. And now all of a sudden, nobody will open their mouths because they sound like idiots if they say that. But the roster is the same, and Miami fans are smart. They understand the coaching's been a culprit. And Gary says, oh, they opened up the offense. Carson Beck did not throw a single pass over 19 yards the entire game. The entire game. Gary thinks they opened it up because they threw some intermediate passes that hit for big gains, right? And if JoJo Trader caught a short pass and...
Hey, that was an improvement from the first quarter and a half.
Yeah, like if a pass leads, JoJo Trader was probably a long touchdown. Keelan had a long touchdown off a short pass. But it was the same damn offense the whole game. They're scared to throw the ball down the field. And somebody on the message boards was like, well, Syracuse was taking away the deep ball. Gary and I were sitting up there while Stephen was eating his cookies and not watching the game. And Gary and I literally were saying, at one point, Gary's like, Josh Moore's one-on-one. This is where they take their shot. This is where they take their shot. And it's a check down, And then we're watching other plays, and guys are one-on-one down the field, and they take the check down or an intermediate route or whatever. They were there for the taking if Miami was comfortable taking one-on-one shots down the field, which, by the way, NC State, that's what they thrive on. It's why they're top 30 in offense, top 10 in red zone offense, although you don't take shots in the red zone. But that's why they're so good at doing these things, right? They are aggressive. They understand their defense sucks, and they better make every possession count. And if Miami acted like that, if Miami acted like it was last year's defense and tried to make every possession count on offense, I think they'd be averaging 10 more points a game. And I think their offensive players would be a lot more excited. When the most excited a player gets is when he catches a touchdown pass at the quarterback and throws a lateral to the offensive lineman for a touchdown, like with the game out of reach. Why aren't you that excited the entire game? Why does it look like they're just going through the motions for most of the game, except for a couple of trick plays that they get excited about? Like, there needs to be something that sparks this team, a player, something new. I'm not saying to bring back like the what the hell was it that many of had the what was that thing?
Turnover chain, but they found it in late in the second quarter, Matt, when they scored that touchdown, and then very quickly the defense got that.
This is what I'm trying to say. That's the problem. You just hit the problem on the head. The excitement shouldn't be because I just scored a touchdown. The excitement shouldn't be, oh, we scored, now we're winning, we're excited. The excitement should be ever present. Ever present. You don't see these guys. The defense, do you remember how the defense played early in the year? I mean, they were smacking the hell out of guys. I had said I'd never seen anything like it. Remember the first 4 weeks of the season? We were like,
and they're still playing well, but it's not like the Notre Dame game. Yeah.
We're like, God, these guys are going full speed and wrecking the offense. Now they're just like getting there and wrapping up a little bit and whatever, like, and then go on to the next play. But that intensity on defense has been gone. And the offense is just like blah when you look at their body language and how they are interacting with each other. It's just like, I don't know what you do. But Mario Cristobal, the players, they need to find something that gives them a spark, because the season's not over. You guys can read the story from yesterday that's about 5,000 pages long.
Well, I think they did it, Matt. I think the big play, I think the fun plays. It's like they had to get back to having fun. I mean, I agree with that. The thought I had when I left Dallas was like, this program's fans, the media covering the program, the coach, like nobody is having fun right now.
By the way, I love that Francis Manoa called that play for himself. He's like, thank God Syracuse called timeout, because now I could go to the coach and say, hey, coach, you're throwing this one to me. This is the play we worked on for the last 2 years. You're throwing it to me. And then they're like, okay.
Thank God is that they said yes.
Right. You gotta.
This is what I'm talking about.
When you recognize your team is not excited emotionally and is not into stuff, you have to do stuff like this. And it sounds ridiculous that a player call his own play. It's stupid, honestly. But at some point, they need to find something, a spark, anything. And if this is what it takes, like, just keep doing it, man. Let the players call their own plays. Like when I played backyard football with my friends back in high school or whatever, like quarterback sits in the pocket and says, hey, you look like you're going to get open a lot. Well, I'll throw it to you. Just, run, you draw it on your hand, right? Here's what you're going to do. The out and up, whatever,
The out and up, man. Stephen Wagner back home in Texas when he was growing up, he was lethal with that out and up.
He played with what was the garbage tire, the tire fires. What was it?
A tire fire, yeah.
Tire fire, yeah. He played in between the tire fires because it's hard to breathe with those things around, right? Right, Steven?
I don't know, man. I've never gone to a tire fire. Well, I mean, like the opening clip of The Simpsons, whenever they show the tire fire down at the dump, and it's got all the tires that are on fire. Well, I imagine, you go down there and, you inhale the fumes and you either get really high or, maybe you die. I don't know how it works. I never stood around inhaling tire fumes.
Great.
Well, getting back to business, like we were really fired up, about, the fact that Miami opened it up and scored that 31 points, combined offense, defense contributions. And it did make the sideline more exciting. And, I don't want to let all this like gory secrets out of the bag, but I will tell you that Stephen Wagner in the press box was ripping off his shirt and was so excited that he wanted to go out into the upper deck with all those kids up there that were doing the shirtless fans or whatever they call that viral thing that's on TikTok and stuff. And he wanted to go out there and start jumping around with them for joy because he was so excited because he saw how excited the recruits were downstairs. They sit right below us at Hard Rock Stadium, and he saw those recruits, man. They were liking what they were seeing. And Stephen, when you spoke to them after the game, that was only confirmed. And the Hurricanes got a commitment last night from James Dunnigan, a safety from Kansas, of all places, and or he was committed to Kansas. And so tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about the reaction that you got from the recruits who were watching the Syracuse game.
Okay, well, first off, I wanted to tell you guys that this morning, I looked up and I was scrolling social media, and I follow a number of the recruits on Instagram and their social media accounts as well. And I saw 4-star St. Thomas Aquinas defensive back Zayden Gamble. He's a member of the 2027 class, a player who's very good, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he ends up at Miami, in his due time. Although, we'll talk more about commitments later in the show. But what do I see on his Instagram story? But a video of him walking up to the student section with the other students in the upper decks, taking his shirt off and waving it around with the rest of the fans. He was literally
they were running. They have a time lapse video that they put out that it started out with like maybe 20 kids and it grew to hundreds. And they have a time lapse video that shows all the kids running up there to join the party.
Yeah, shout out Oklahoma State for starting this whole thing. What's better than guys being dudes? But yeah, I thought it was absolutely hilarious that a recruit who Miami is genuinely interested in, a recruit who, Miami wants him and he shows a lot of interest in Miami, decided in the middle of the game, I'm just going to walk up there, take off my shirt, spin it around a couple times, see what's going on. But anyway, reactions off the game, definitely very positive. Miami's in a really good spot, I think, with a number of players who ended up visiting for the game. There's a couple of guys who I think we're going to be on commit watch for here probably over the next week. I don't know specifically when, but I think it would probably make sense to kind of prepare for these guys to probably pull the trigger within the next week. and that's going to be Isaac Chukra. He's a Penn State defensive line commit. And Logan Nagel, a Pittsburgh defensive line commit. Nagel is a name that some of you may know. We've been mentioning kind of throughout the fall. Miami was trying to keep his recruitment a little bit quieter earlier in the fall, just because they didn't really want to ruffle the feathers with Pittsburgh, and there is value in making sure that another school does not know that you're coming or that you're involved or knows that, hey, you're a serious threat. But the cat's been out of the bag for a little while at this point. I really like Miami's position for Logan Nagel. I've liked it for a little while. I included him in my last mock class. Ran a story on Thursday that said I wouldn't be surprised at all if Nagel is one of the next players to commit to Miami. So we're definitely going to be on the lookout for those two guys here over the coming days. I also entered an RPM late Saturday night for Miami to land Braden Tyson, a 2027 running back that has been very, very high on Miami's board for a little while now. I think Braden Tyson is very close with the Hurricanes. Really loves Matt Merritt, really loves Mario Cristobal, has had two very, very positive experiences down in Coral Gables. Miami checks all of his boxes. His mother's visited with him twice, and mom really approves, and mom really likes the school too. So it seems like the Hurricanes are in very good shape there. So that's another one that wouldn't surprise me at all. So talking about the commitment that came in last night, James Dunnigan, I can't exactly say that it was a surprise because we did include him in our list of players who we thought could be next to go ahead and pull the trigger and end up a Hurricane. But I am a little bit surprised by the timing. He's scheduled to visit this coming week for the NC State game. That's a game that I still expect him to be that we still expect him to be down for. I'll be honest, I really thought that he was going to end up committing after that visit. It was Miami and Colorado that were really vying for him. Once he decommitted from Kansas, he took an official visit to Colorado Halloween weekend, October 31st, went ahead and locked in a visit to Miami November 15th, like I said, for the NC State game. We really thought there was a really good chance that that visit would end up in a commitment. So I'm a little bit surprised that he ended up committing about a week before he made the trip. But overall, not really a surprise whatsoever. But man, this really could be a little bit of the tip of the iceberg for Miami this week. I mean, I think it's very possible that Miami ends up getting 3, maybe even 4 more commitments by the end of the week. I mean, the Hurricanes really are in great shape with a lot of really top recruits. Been saying on the site for a little while now, I think most likely Miami's going to end up with somewhere between 30 and 32 commits or so. Like I said, the 2 defensive linemen, Logan Nagel and Isaac Chukra, those 2 players would give Miami 6 total defensive linemen in the class. And some of you, may say, why are we getting 6 defensive linemen? I mean, I'm all for, loading up a position, but that's just, starting to seem a little bit absurd. Well, whenever the roster limit or whenever the scholarship limit increases up to 105, I mean, that gives you a lot more flexibility to just take players who you have strong evaluations on, who you think are good players. And, maybe they'll pan out, maybe they won't. But I think the roster limit or the scholarship limit increasing to 105, well, yeah, I guess by de facto, the roster limit too. But that increase to 105, I think that's going to give a lot of these programs the freedom to load up even more at positions that they value without really having to worry about, okay, well, if we take, 2 more defensive tackles this class, well, that no longer means that we can take these 2 wide receivers that we really like. I think Miami kind of views this as, man, the more the merrier. This is giving us the ability to go ahead and really load up at a position that we recognize we need help at. And they're going to take advantage of it. I mean, I also think that this kind of shows that, Miami's going to really want their defensive line talent to be homegrown. Actually, I guess I should say offensive and defensive line talent to be homegrown because once Miami lands Chukra and once Miami most likely lands Nagel, I think it's probably, there's probably going to be 14 or 15 offensive and defensive line and edge commits in this cycle. So you're seeing Miami place a very, very clear focus along the trenches. And Miami's saying by taking all of these high school offensive and defensive linemen, we want players that are going to be in our program for multiple years at the positions that we find most valuable, because I think Miami's kind of learned from going to the transfer portal for defensive linemen and in some cases for offensive linemen, going after a center like James Brockermeyer or Matt Lee or whomever, is that, going to the transfer portal is expensive. You keep these kids, you get these kids as high school recruits, you get them here for a couple of years. I mean, you can probably save a little bit of money that way too. Basically long-winded way of saying a lot of good things are going to be on the horizon. I would expect this week to be a really good week for Miami recruiting.
Yeah, this Dunnigan commit is very interesting because he's a Kansas kid, and I believe he's a Kansas State legacy.
Yep.
But he committed to Kansas.
Yep.
And I believe, I don't know if it's his mom or if they were trying to keep him home. I mean, they wanted him to stay in the state of Kansas. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, that his first exposure to Miami was on a 7-on-7 tournament. Was at a 7-on-7 tournament when he was in town, and he just fell in love with Miami, and Miami just stayed in his head. And finally, he told his family, I don't want to go to Kansas. I want to go to Miami. And they re-engaged with him, and now we're able to get the commitment even before his official visit. So hopefully he turns out to be a great player, and it's a great recruiting job. But the Canes are starting to build momentum, like Steven said, in recruiting, with signing day now a couple weeks away. So it's 3 weeks away now. So, going to be very interesting to follow this next week or so, because we believe there are several more commits coming. And that means that the Canes fan is going to be very happy and is going to want to enjoy some Modello. And, the football season's here. Canes fans, it looks like you deserve a Modello. If not for the success on the field, which involved 2 losses in the last month, certainly with the recruiting successes that are starting now, look like they're about to pile up. So college football season is Modello season, so reward your full-time fandom with an ice-cold Modello, which is the official beer of the college football playoff. They might as well be the official beer of college football, because you literally see Modello everywhere. At all the concession stands at the stadium, you see signage around the field. If you turn on your television set, you see Modello commercials. Modello has married itself to college football, and the Modello Recruiter is back in action, looking to reward full-time fans who give their all for their team. So the fact that you're just listening to this show first thing in the morning is a testament to the fact that you are a full-time fan, and you have now been recruited for an ice-cold reward of Modello. Some things in life are just made for each other. You got peanut butter and jelly, you got macaroni and cheese, and you have Modello and college football. So you live and breathe football, and that makes you that full-time fan, which means you deserve a Modello. So go grab yourself a Modello today and stay game day ready all season long. All right, so we've set the table for what's going to happen in recruiting. We talked a little bit about the game on Saturday night. Now let's take a moment here, and we'll be obviously doing this all week. Looking forward to the North Carolina State game. We're going to be talking to Mario Cristobal multiple times today. We'll have coverage of that on the website. We're going to be talking to Shannon Dawson about his revived offense from the Syracuse game. We'll be talking to Corey Heatherman today. So a lot going on the website. Basketball team plays Stetson tonight. So yeah, we got a lot going on. But Matt, NC State is a school that you have been touting for several weeks now. But you took a look at them before the season. You were impressed with some things you saw. They've had a rocky campaign, in all honesty. Lost some games they probably should not have lost. They're 2-3 in the ACC right now, which obviously is not what they were looking for. But they lost a close game at Duke. They lost a close game to Virginia Tech. They lost a game at Pitt. But then they beat Georgia Tech of all teams at home. And now they come to Miami after an open week. And look, the fact that they beat Georgia Tech is a statement that you better respect them, that even though their record's not so great, they are a capable team, particularly on offense, where they're led by a Hollywood Chaminade kid by the name of CJ Bailey, that everybody thinks is going to just want to come to Miami in the transfer portal in a few weeks. Don't know about that one yet, but Steven says no, that's not happening. We do think that Miami will be looking for a quarterback again in the portal to come in here and compete. We don't know yet what Emory Williams is going to do, whether he's going to stick it out another year at Miami or go in the portal. We feel pretty confident Luke Nickel will be at spring practice competing. There's no reason for him to bail on Miami at this point. He's in his first year. But Matt, NC State, what about the Wolfpack kind of piqued your interest earlier this year and made you think that this could be a dangerous team? And do you still believe that as they come to Hard Rock this week?
Yeah, look, I said before the Notre Dame game, which was close for a half, and they got blown out in the second half, or maybe even the week before that, I said I think NC State's going to be a team that can give Miami problems, because my whole theory on teams that can cause Miami problems is based on the other team's offense. Okay, because I feel like this year's Miami team, unlike last year's, can struggle to keep up in a high-scoring game. So that's what I keep basing my predictions on, right? Can this team score a lot of points against Miami or not? So, at SMU, I would have said yes, except they had so many damn injuries on offense that I backed off of that, But now this NC State team coming off a bye, they score a lot of points. Notre Dame was the only team that was able to hold them down, held them to one touchdown, and that was it. And we'll have a film study at some point showing some of the stuff Notre Dame did. But basically, what Notre Dame did to have success, and a reason, and this is probably a reason why Miami is such a heavy favorite, I think 14.5-point favorite to open, is because Notre Dame caused all kinds of problems for CJ Bailey by rushing 4 and getting pressure with 4, right? So they caused 3 interceptions, a fumble. He was sacked 4 times, under pressure a lot. Miami can do that. Miami has that capability and then play coverage behind it. And when he's pressured and someone's not open, he has a tendency to put the ball in harm's way. But with that said, he can escape the pocket. He can make plays with his legs. We've seen quarterbacks draws, design quarterback run plays that have caused Miami all sorts of headaches in the past. So, Corey Heatherman's done well with that so far. But this is a guy who has the physicality to run you over, the speed to run by you. Their running game's not particularly good. Their offensive line hasn't given up a lot of sacks. Notre Dame was obviously an exception. And CJ Bailey has a bunch of receiving weapons, a tight end who can catch the ball, who I don't think Miami's seen a pass-catching tight end like this, unless I'm missing somebody, all year. So the linebackers have struggled in coverage. This is going to be a massive problem, potentially, if NC State's offensive coordinator is able to draw up plays to get him one-on-one with the linebackers, especially Mohamed Toure. If that happens, then that's on Corey Heatherman. But, if you just look at the numbers, okay, this is one of the worst defenses in the country, period, which we've said this in the past, and Miami hasn't done well against really bad defenses. But again, how many teams are there in college football? 133, I think, in the major conference, right?
There's more now. It's like 136 because a few schools got added, like Delaware and Missouri State and Sam Houston.
Yeah, okay, So out of 136, Stephen, what do you think they rank in passing yards allowed, since Carson Beck's going to light it up against them? Out of 136 teams, what do you think they rank nationally, NC State, this year? It took too long. I'll just tell you.
I don't know, 90th?
133rd, okay? They're flat awful. Their defense is terrible, okay? Their total defense is 120th. Just ahead of Alaska State.
I'm going to remind you, SMU was supposed to be terrible too, and
right,
we didn't attack them the way we should have.
Correct. That's what I just said literally a minute ago when you were looking at your results of your blood pressure test. Miami has not done well playing against these bad defenses in the past, so maybe it'll be different now. It better be. They're okay against the run. See, that's the thing with Miami, right? SMU is good against the run, terrible against the pass. SMU is not that different. Decent against the run, 45th against the run, horrible against the pass. So does Shannon Dawson say, oh, okay, let's play to their weakness instead of to our strength? Because he thinks Miami's strength is running the ball in the A and B gaps. or as Miami fans like to say, the a-hole when they refer to Shannon Dawson. I didn't make that up. I didn't make that up. I saw it on the message board. I sort of liked it.
Oh, God.
Shannon Dawson runs to the a-hole. Anyway, children don't know what that means. It's fine. So will he finally recognize that team really has bad cornerbacks and bad safeties in coverage, and they can't cover anybody, but they're decent stopping the run, so I'm going to just freaking throw the ball down the field the whole damn game? Or is he going to say, oh, well, they're playing, two high safeties. We better check everything down and just run the ball until we see which way the game's going, which is what he does, right? That's what he does. He likes to keep the game close to make sure he's not giving the game away when he feels like Miami has a better team, which Miami's had a better team than every team they played this year, probably except for Notre Dame. But the Notre Dame quarterback, was terrible. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Shannon Dawson attacks a really bad NC State secondary. And on the flip side, their offense does worry you, right? The NC State offense, again, I mentioned CJ Bailey. The running backs are averaging, 4 or 5 yards a carry, bunch of receiving weapons, like I mentioned. And they're in the top 30 in total offense, top 10 in red zone offense. But scoring offense, they're 44th, and part of that is because Notre Dame held them to 7 points because they're averaging, I think, 32 points overall. And if you look at their 4 losses, they gave up a lot of points. I think 23 was the least points they gave up, and then the others were all over 30 or 40 points. So Miami's going to have to score 4 touchdowns plus probably to win this game, and that's on Shannon Dawson. If he fails in this game, I want him fired. And not even allowed on the bus back. Make him walk back to his house or something. I mean, I'm like so over this. Like, it just seems so obvious looking at all this that you got to throw the ball more than 19 yards down the field against this defense to win the game. And if they fail on offense, if it's because of the game plan, because the personnel's good enough, I'm going to be so upset that I'm not going to go to any more press conferences the rest of the year. That's it. I'm done. Can I not hear you?
Neither of us can.
Oh, okay, good. Now you're good, Gary. So anyway, Steven, let's throw it over to you. What are your thoughts?
I'm thinking about
what's the over-under. All you care about is over-under. I mean, that's all you talk about. So.
Oh yeah, if you get a live line on an over-under that is like absolutely awesome, and you can bet the hell out of it, I will bet the hell out of a beautiful live over-under.
You're such a good reporter. You use your inside information to make money.
I don't think you understand. The live over-under at one point in the game was 24.5.
And what did I say to you?
Take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I did. Now I have some money.
Did you take it?
Yeah, I did. Now I got a little bit of money. Now I'm rich.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry about that, but we'll be covering NC State obviously all week long. We'll bring you guys lots of stuff. We'll take a look at CJ Bailey, what makes him so successful. Like I said earlier, we've got a lot of stuff coming your way today on the website. Beginning with Mario Cristobal multiple times, and then the 2 coordinators. So make sure you check in on that, and then we'll have coverage of the basketball game in the evening. And we're keeping our eyes open for more commitments. They could be coming. We thank you guys so much for watching the show this morning. For Stephen Wagner, Matt Shodell, I'm Gary. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.